Hello again. Now we've already talked about some of the myths about entrepreneurship that are holding you back. Now let's talk about what you actually need to get it done. The first thing you're going to talk about is passion and interest. You're going to work too many hours. You're going to work too hard and too long to do something that's boring or that you don't like or you can't do. For example, if you have allergies or hate the heat, don't be a landscaper. If you don't like numbers or you're dyslexic, don't open a bookkeeping service. You know what I mean. Really what you need to know is that you like this space, that you enjoy it, that you would read about it in your spare time, for example. Then you need to understand who the customer is. Who are you going to sell this to? Are there enough of them in your area where you can serve effectively that you can make a living at it? Because let's face it, if you are a good example, in my small town on a secondary or maybe even a tertiary road on the way out to a reservoir was an old gas station that someone years ago had turned into retail space for whatever reason. It was empty and someone thought it was a cute little place, and so they opened a scrapbooking supply store. Well, I would posit that that's not the place for it. There's not enough traffic. I don't know that there are enough people in my little town to who do scrapbooking that they would have bothered to seek this place out. So don't get attached to a location. For example, if you've got a physical business, physical store or a shop or a service that requires you to go out and see clients, don't do that until you've figured out, are there enough potential clients in the reasonable area that I can serve effectively. You're also going to need to understand, how are they solving their problem now? In the example of the landscaping service, for example, how many landscapers already exist? How many people use landscapers? What are some of the margins? We'll talk about the economics of small business in terms of, I don't mean economics in the academic sense, I'm really talking about the economics, I should say, of what does it cost to provide this service? Is the market demand such that I can charge something in excess of the cost to compensate myself and to, in effect, justify the initial investment? We talked about that with profit in the earlier session. So I need you to think about that. And that gets me to how much money do you need to start? When you think about it, there are sort of ongoing expenses. For example, if you were going to open a retail store, your monthly rent, your monthly utilities would be ongoing expenses. Employee hires would be monthly expenses. Your accountant, that sort of thing, your telephone, your internet, those are monthly expenses. And you'll have to figure out if the amount of money you can generate monthly or quarterly would cover those expenses and return something to you. But in addition, remember we talked about capital back a while ago? We need to understand, how much capital do I need to set up this business? For example, in the store example, you need to buy, I don't know, computers or a cash register or display cases. If it was a pizza joint, you need ovens and tables and chairs and refrigeration, etc. You're also going to need to have permits and inspections, and maybe you need to upgrade the air conditioning or the electrical. Those are the setup costs. So if you think about it, we have setup costs, sometimes referred to as fixed costs, right? But they're really more than fixed costs, because whether you ever launch the business or not, you've got to invest that money. Obviously, you could spend the money to build out a store and then never open it, and those are gone, sunk. There are fixed costs like your rent, meaning every month the rent is due. And there are variable costs associated with, every time I sell a sandwich, it costs me $3 in material and in electricity and in cooking, etc., and labor to make that sandwich. So I better charge more than $3. Maybe I need to charge $4.50 or $5. And then in that $2 profit, you've got to say, can I make enough of these sandwiches in order to cover my monthly fixed expenses and pay me back for those setup expenses? Only then do you have a viable business that will last beyond the level of your savings account balance.